How many of you would like to cleanse and detoxify in a natural and a healthy way? And how many of you would like to run like a well-oiled machine? Welcome everyone. My name's Al Garcia. I'm the mechanic on duty today. They call me Al the Guru Garcia. So today what I'm going to do, or what I intend to do, is create a few metaphors about maintaining the value of this car so that we could help you to learn to maintain your health. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of this formula. It's A, activate, plus B, build, plus C, cleanse, so we don't get D, disease, and we don't have to directly aid different organs and different parts of the body. A stands for activate. You need clean fluids to activate this vehicle and get it going down the road. We got to put water in the battery. We've got to put gasoline in the gas tank. We've got to put water in the radiator. We've got to put oil in the engine. All of those things it takes to activate and get this vehicle moving. The same thing with the human body. We have got to get some fluid in our body. We use a little bit of water and a couple drops of your favorite citrus oil. I love lemon in particular because you can just take a drop of lemon, put it in the water. Oh, take a drink of that water and keep our system hydrated. We also need fiber in our systems, and I love to use the Zendocrine product, and I love to use the doTERRA Trim Shake. This Trim Shake has got all the fiber that we need. So these two products together get our intestinal system moving. They get all the things happening that we need to make our system work properly. Just like this vehicle needs sometimes gas additives and oil additives, the Terrazyme is a product, it's an enzyme. It activates our entire stomach and intestinal system to properly digest food. That's Terrazyme. And PB Assist is a very, very important product. This is a multi-function digestive aid that helps us to break down food and absorb food. The benefits to probiotic is that you're inputting live bacteria into the intestinal tract. And the intestinal tract has all the little villi, the little fingers. It would be like looking at your tongue in a microscope. These tiny little fingers that are inside the intestinal tract, these bacteria live in between those villi or those fingers. And that's what keeps waste moving. That's what keeps the body absorbing nutrition. As you eat foods, good foods, vitamins and minerals are extracted and absorbed by these bacteria. You know, as a mechanic, we land up using and having a timing order that's got to make this engine fire properly. And it's very important that all of the pistons in this vehicle fire at the proper time. Well, I like to think of Zendocrine the same way. You know, there's enough various seeds and barks, milk thistles, rhubarb, psyllium hulls, barberry, all these complex herbs that open up the channels of elimination. Not only is it just our intestinal system, but we have other channels of elimination. We've got to get rid of carbon dioxide from our lungs. We've got to get rid of phlegm and mucus from our respiratory system. And all of these things have to go on, dead skin off our body. And the Zendocrine product helps all of those chimneys to get opened so that the wastes are properly eliminated from the human body. In a review of these great products, you notice I got them on an air filter here, a clean one, because we want to activate the body so that we get all of these things moving. We've used our lemon oil in our water to hydrate. We've used our Zendocrine to get all the chimneys open. Our Terrazymes to help us digest and break down all the food, and our PB Assist so that we won't have absorption problems, we won't be malnourished, and we'll be able to fight the germs that are going on in the body by having the good bacteria. I like to think of it as the friendly soldiers that fight the enemy. These probiotic bacteria are very, very important. And in my family, I've always used probiotic bacteria instead of antibiotics. I've always given my children high doses of probiotic bacteria. So PB Assist can do wonderful things in a family to protect them from the enemy called germs. All right, let's talk about the B portion of the formula, build. When you want to keep a car on the road, There's some certain safety requirements that every state makes mandatory for you to check. We check your horn, your signals, your headlights. They even measure the brakes. Well, the human body is the same way. And so it's very, very important that we utilize the Lifelong Vitality Pack. It represents all the required nutrients that the human body needs. These are the essential building blocks for the human body. The Lifelong Vitality Pack is all the nutrients that the whole body needs. All of the organs need vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and all of the omega oils. These are the lifeblood of the human body. Is called nutrition. Just like the air cleaner of a vehicle, we want clean lungs, healthy lungs, and a very good respiration system. So we have an oil called Breathe, and Breathe has got all the invigorating oils to stimulate our bronchioles to take good, strong, deep breaths, put oxygen in our bloodstream, and Breathe is an incredible, incredible formula. Another very important system of every vehicle is the horn. So the horn is so important in the system. Well, guess what? Your horn in the human body is your immune system. It's your advanced system to get all of your red blood cells and white blood cells. So we use a little stimulation for that system called On Guard. This is wild orange, clove, and cinnamon. Invigorating oils that can get your thymus gland or your immune system just working to its optimum. So remember, if you need a little safety, On Guard, that's safety for the immune system. All right, let's discuss the C portion of the formula, which is the cleanse. We know that we have to do certain periodic cleansing and even daily cleansing to the vehicle. We've got to do things like change our oil every 3,000 miles. We've got requirements that when you open these maintenance manuals and you find out that you have to have oil changed, you've got to change your transmission fluid, your gear lube. Once in a while, you have to change your radiator fluid. The human body is the same way. For example, all of you brush your teeth, so we use the On Guard formula. It's an On Guard natural whitening toothpaste. The wild orange, the cinnamon, the clove, these things disinfect any bacteria, whiten your teeth, kill all the germs, things that make people's mouths smell. This is what's going to prevent that and create a daily cleanse. Lemon, we've talked about before, but lemon is such an important part of invigorating you, helping you get the morning going, but it's also an antioxidant. And an antioxidant gets not only in your bloodstream, but it goes and penetrates over 1 trillion cells in the human body. It can go through the wall lining of a cell and get in there and neutralize viruses. It can kill bacteria in the bloodstream that would probably run you down and get you sick, compromise the immune system. So lemon is very, very important to helping you and all of the cells in your body to stay healthy and to cleanse them out. In addition, we have the On Guard oil, just like we use in the On Guard toothpaste. We can gargle, we can make a mouthwash with On Guard. We can put a couple drops and swallow it because of what it will do to cleanse the inside of our body. So On Guard is very important. Wild orange, clove, and cinnamon. Frankincense is included in little portions in every one of these products in the skincare line. It does wonderful things to detoxify the cells in the human body. Okay, so now that we've completed talking about daily cleansing regimes, let's discuss some of the periodic cleansing regimes that we can do as part of the C, or the cleanse portion of the formula. This formula is endocrine, is done in a powder and a complex formula, and it's also done in an oil, an essential oil format. They're working with all the systems to open up all of the channels of elimination. So they're going to help the intestinal system, the respiratory system, the skin. They'll help by opening them up and bringing a benefit to those systems by making them operate properly. Now let me tell you a little bit about GX Assist. This is a gastrointestinal cleansing formula. The hydrochloric acids of your stomach will normally destroy this caprylic acid. So they enterically coat it so it delays that. It's like a time delay, so it opens up a little bit later in your system. Caprylic acid is fantastic for killing yeast or the Candida albicans that creates a yeast problem. Let me tell you a little story about a customer that I had that came to me with a severe Candida issue. She got tired all the time. Her head was fatigued. She said she lost her memory. She was having problems with urinary tract infections. She'd actually have blurry vision. And she said this was just a terrible ongoing problem. She'd been to lots of health practitioners trying to get help for this. And because she was having bloating problems and constipation and occasional diarrhea problems, I shared with her this product called GX Assist. By putting caprylic acid in your system, it goes in and kills things that don't belong there in an overgrowth situation. This particular individual lost about a little over 65 pounds from doing GX Assist and getting her intestines working properly. She worked with the airlines, and just all of a sudden, all of her coworkers that worked with her noticed that she looked good and felt good. And so she told them, I've been taking the GX Assist formula, and it's done some incredible things to my intestinal tract. Another very important product is the probiotic formula called PB Assist. This product has contained 6 different cultures of probiotic bacteria. So this is a great formula for getting microorganisms, good bacteria, 6 strains, over 5 billion good bacteria in the lower gut. So that completes the ABC part of the formula. Now remember, when the human body gets the dis-ease or the D portion of this formula, this is because we've had a long period of time of neglect. And so these cells start being disrupted with excessive toxicity and a deficiency in nutrition. We've now got to put new starters, new brake pads, new windows. So let's just take one particular problem, just general inflammation. When the body begins to get inflamed, you see the common problems like colds and flus and sore throats and swollen tonsils. Inflammation means swelling. It means redness. And inflammation will lead to infection. And frankincense is probably the best, one of the best to prevent and stop infections from happening. And if you don't pay attention to these dings and dents and rusts on the car, they get to be very problematic. And the same thing happens in the human body. We go from normal to an acute inflammation to absolutely chronic problems, and eventually will lead to degeneration. Some of the other common problems that we see in the human body are things like blood sugar and adrenal fatigue. Let's just talk about blood sugar and the problems we have when a pancreas becomes out of balance. It quits doing its job of balancing blood sugar, of producing the kind of enzymes called pancreatin. What happens then is the liver starts struggling. We start having energy problems. So blood sugar is very important to keep balanced. In the blood sugar formula, we have 3 oils that are widely used: oregano, basil, and lemon. And the oregano contains all of the active ingredients that can kill a microbial. And then the basil, they contain an active ingredient called linalool. And linalool balances blood sugar. And so a formula that could be used is 1 drop of oregano, 3 drops of basil, and 3 drops of lemon. Those formulas would be put in a gelatin capsule and taken 2 times a day. And this would do wonderful things to balance blood sugar. And as the final and most important portion of making this vehicle run, we've got to have fuel. We need gasoline, just like the human body needs blood. We have to have healthy blood in order to be healthy and keep our bodies working right. The most common activity of any mechanic is to change oil. You know, you need a new oil filter and you need a new air filter. These 2 things have to be changed to keep clean oil. But when they get dirty, they create lots of problems, just like the human body can get dirty. I've invited a really good friend of mine named Brian True. He is probably one of the most experienced phlebotomists in the whole country. How many blood draws have you done, Brian?
over 260,000 blood draws in 19 and a half years.
Oh my goodness, 19 years of checking the human body's bloodstream.
Pulling blood out and looking at it in the laboratory and clinical setting is what my specialty is.
Wow, so how does that correlate with having a dirty oil in a vehicle and wanting clean oil in a vehicle?
Well, when you change your oil, sometimes it comes out a little bit more mucky than other times. Sometimes it comes out colored. Sometimes it comes out bubbly. There's all kinds of
frothy oil. We get that too.
Frothy oil, exactly. Well, that's a direct correlation to what when you put into your body. If you're putting in poor supplements, if you're putting in poor food, if you're not exercising, all of these things combined together, make for bad blood. And bad blood is in your body makes for a poor lifestyle, just like bad oil in your car makes for it to run poor.
Did you know that most people don't know this, but when the dust and the dirt comes in through the air filter and gets in your fuel injection or your carburetor of your vehicle, the oil gets dirty?
Yeah. Very similar to your lungs. When people breathe poor air or they're not exercising frequently, making those muscles in the lungs and their diaphragm strong, then their lungs get tired and old and weak. Most people that are needing to get exercise aren't needing build big muscles, compete, etc. They're just saying, hey, look, I just need to be more healthy. And the healthy portion of that comes from getting your heart rate to twice the normal rate 3 times a week for an hour. Okay, and that's what the American Heart Association recommends, and that's generally what people utilize. What happens is the body starts to circulate all this blood, and it starts to go through all the organs, and it goes through quickly. And the body, then you're taking in water. You're generally drinking something pretty healthy when you're exercising, and so it's lubricating all the joints and everything. And overall, the body its response is clean out all the bad stuff in the blood quickly. Let's rejuvenate it with fresh new fluids and liquids. And then overall you just feel rejuvenated and you get a sense of euphoria.
Do you have to run a couple miles or does just doing a little bit of this work?
That doesn't work, Al.
Darn it. What happens when you don't have enough oxygen in your blood?
Oxygen deprivation causes fatigue. When you don't have the right supplements and the right intake, you don't have the building blocks for red blood cells. And if you don't have the building blocks for red blood cells, you have what's called a low red blood cell count, or low hematocrit, which is your percentage of red blood cells in your system.
We have the same problem. If we don't get the proper vacuum and the proper airflow to a vehicle, the thing just doesn't run right.
Yeah.
So you've got to have good oxygen.
Absolutely. Oxygen carrying capacity is one of the most important things, and the building blocks for red blood cells are one of the most important things we have in the medical industry. So people will come to me and they'll say, Brian, you're the blood guy. You've been doing blood work your whole life. I'm so tired all the time. And I go, well, stop drinking soda. There's your solution right there. And sometimes the solutions are a little bit more complex, and I refer them to people that know more about supplementation and diet and exercise. But most of the time, it's a pretty simple solution. Clean up your diet. So what happens when people drink soda is 2 things right out of the gate. First thing that happens is they get extremely hypotonic. The sodium in the soda pop actually makes them feel like they have to excrete. They have to urinate immediately, which makes their body say, hey, we're still thirsty. So what do they think they need? They think they need another one because now they're thirsty. Secondary thing it does is it robs the body's ability to carry oxygen. So they feel fatigued and tired. Carbon dioxide attaches on the hemoglobin in the red blood cell like a magnet. And then the oxygen molecules that are being breathed into the lungs, they're standing there at what are called the alveoli, and they're waiting for the oxygen train to come through, which represents a red blood cell, and they try to jump on, but every time they jump by, they realize that there's a carbon dioxide molecule attached to that same spot, and they can't get on. So the body gets starved of oxygen because they've been intaking so much carbon dioxide, and that's where the fatigue rolls in. So they feel fatigued and tired, and they're excreting. They think they need another drink, which is only going to make them more fatigued and tired. So what do? They take in a big caffeinated energy drink. And the problem with that is that caffeine's a vasodilator. And so what it does is it creates a false sense of well-being. And all of a sudden they think, oh, I'm back in the saddle. I'm back. Here I go. But what they're doing is they're just creating a bigger problem. Now they have all of this energy that they're trying to create as a false sense of energy, and then the body ends up crashing again, and then they still have the oxygen deprivation problem and the excretion problem. So the best thing they can do is just stop consuming those types of fluids.
In this vehicle, I've noticed with all vehicles, you can have problems with emissions when the catalytic converter doesn't work. It won't run properly. When these filters are all plugged up, it doesn't run properly. When we get problems with like a little bit of water in the fuel, it doesn't run properly. I'm sure that the human body is far more complex than this vehicle. What else do we need for the blood?
Absolutely. Great point, Al. So I correlate the air filter more to the red blood cells because they carry oxygen. You need to have good airflow, and that's what your body does with your lungs and your oxygen. But other parts of the blood, like your white blood cells, are super important. Okay, you've got leukocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, basophils, lots of different white blood cells. And those white blood cells fight viral infections, bacterial infections, they fight off allergies, etc. So essentially, if you don't have all your white blood cells and all the building blocks for those and have a strong immune system, then you're going to be severely immunocompromised and you're going to be susceptible to sickness continually.
What do people feel like? They lose energy, they lose power, they can't get up and go?
They do. They feel very lethargic when they have a poor red blood cell or oxygen carrying capacity. They feel tired, and then coupled with the fact that they're immunocompromised, it just compounds the problem. What they have to understand and remember is you have to stop everything you're doing, get somebody to consult with you on what you need, and then start that process and stick with it. The nice thing for people that understand is that almost every organ in the body can be repaired and restored to its original state. I know people who come in with liver function problems and hepatic function or renal function problems. Smokers who've been smoking their whole lives, they think their lungs are ruined. The day they stop smoking, their lungs start to repair. And so with the correct supplementation, the correct support, the correct diet and exercise, and individuals that can coach them through the process and tell them what to do, they're on their way back to health right out of the gate. I brought a sample of blood today with me that's actually of a gentleman who had high cholesterol. He had a very, very, very poor diet. He never exercised. He had no supplement intake.
Is that fat and cholesterol?
That's exactly what that is. This should actually be clear and yellow, and it's called serum of the blood. It's the liquid portion of the blood. This is the red blood cells. This is a separator layer, and this is actually the serum. So it's all of the components of the blood except red blood cells, and there's no clotting factor in it. So what that results in is the liquid portion. That's pink and chunky like spoiled milk. Your blood should be like water, and it should be clear, and it should be yellow. But this particular gentleman is very, very unhealthy. Okay, so cholesterol is one of these things that you poor intake of your diet, high fatty, fried foods, all these poor things, coupled with the fact that you don't exercise frequently, your arteries start to clog, and all that stuff right there is what coats the inside of your arteries and veins.
I know that you've done thousands and thousands of blood draws. What's some of the most amazing things that you've seen from these different blood draws that you've done?
Well, most of the time I see the visual inspection, so I can look at it and say, that's not good, okay? But what I have seen is when you show that to people and they make a change, they actually say, I'm not gonna put up with this anymore. I'm not gonna have my blood look like that. I wanna be better, I wanna be different, and they actually make the change. I've seen people who go from severely obese with hypercholesterolemia, hyperlipidemia, and all kinds of medical conditions and problems in their blood work to being some of the healthiest people you've ever met or seen.
In this formula that we have, the A plus B plus C, the B stands for build, and we've got to do all the proper things to this vehicle, proper gasolines, proper oils, water at the right levels in the radiator. How does blood build?
So iron and other components that we put into our bodies are essential for building red blood cells. Red blood cells start out in the marrow and the bones as what are called immature reticulocytes, and they leave the bone marrow and enter into the bloodstream, and they grow over a 6 to 8, sometimes 10 or 12 week period. The problem is that they're constantly reproducing themselves, and when you don't give the body the building blocks, your red blood cells get old and they get tired. And when we look at blood work, we see that in the hematocrit and the hemoglobin and the mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration. Those particular components in the blood are elevated because the cells are so big and they're growing, but the body's telling that cell, you can't die yet because we don't have the building blocks to reproduce new young ones. And so you end up with this body that's trying to carry oxygen, but the cells are tired, which ends up with you being lethargic and tired and feeling fatigued almost all the time. So it's essential that the body has the building blocks to produce a red blood cell. You cannot make a red blood cell out of nothing. If you don't have red blood cells, you don't have oxygen carrying capacity. If you don't have oxygen carrying capacity, you don't have life.
Brian, is all supplementation equal? Could people just use anything?
No, supplementation is not created equal. A few years back, I was involved with a company called Blood Education Center. And Blood Education Center specialized in taking individuals' blood, a full 42-panel comprehensive blood evaluation, prior to supplement intake, then putting them on a 6 or 8 or 10-week supplement program. And then at the end of it, we would recollect their blood and see how their blood work looked. Well, a lot of these juice companies and some of these other supplement companies that were around, they feared the results. And oftentimes, I would say 70% of the time, the blood work came back and the individual's blood work looked worse than it looked when they started. And that was a direct correlation to having the hepatic function was off the chart, renal function was off the chart, and essentially their body, they were taking in so much stuff they didn't need to take in that the body was having to work overtime to cleanse it, and it was actually harming and doing damage to their kidney and liver. And I tell people all the time, they come to me and say, hey, I'm taking this, I'm taking that, can you do my blood work? And I show them the before and after blood work, and they go, what does that mean? And I go, that means you're killing yourself. That means you're gonna have kidney failure or hepatic, you're gonna have renal failure. And they're like, why is my kidney numbers and my liver numbers so high? I said, because your body's working overtime. Or we'll do a heart panel and their homocysteine or C-reactive protein levels are off the chart. And those are heart inflammation indicators, which means that some of the supplements that are taken aren't good for their heart. The supplement is either too hard or they're taking the wrong supplement for their conditions, and it ends up not assimilating into the bloodstream or into the body because it just doesn't have enough time in the process. That's why we've found that when people use the oils, they're infinitely more successful because it already starts out as something that the body can assimilate almost immediately.
I had a friend tell me one time that we've got to take a good balance of good things. We were talking about water, and he said, you realize that if you had water in excess, it's called drowning.
Yeah.
So it means we've got to have good supplements.
You do. You got to have good supplements, and all supplements aren't created equal. That's a great, some of them are junk.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming
pleasure.
down. We appreciate you coming down
You bet.
and sharing the expertise on blood work with us.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, you all see that blood is so important, and not all supplements are created equal. So we know that the reason why we've got a medical advisory board, the reason we do these third-party tests on every ingredient in the supplements that we're putting together at doTERRA is to make sure that people don't get these excesses, and that's what we bring to you with the Lifelong Vitality Pack from doTERRA. You see what's happening with vehicles that don't get taken care of. All these wrecking yards are filled with broken down cars because people didn't maintain them. What's happening to the human body is exactly the same. The people that are too busy to pay attention to their health, their hospitals are full because of that situation. So what we want to do, folks, is help you to learn this A plus B plus C so we don't get D. There's nothing I love better than to drive this car to one of those detail shops that charge me $200 or $300. And you know what? It's a great feeling to know that they're going to take a toothbrush and polish in between my air conditioner vents, and they're going to polish every little detail, shampoo the carpet, and that's what we're trying to do to you. We're trying to help you with a program, with an educational series that will allow you to learn how to prevent these problems. So activate these daily health habits. Remember the formula: activate plus build plus cleanse, so we don't have to get direct support. Access your potential. We want to utilize all the horsepower this Mercedes has to offer by keeping everything clean and functioning properly. We want you to have your maximum potential. We want you to display your maximum horsepower and be involved with us in doTERRA.